Hey everybody, we are back with another Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, hashtag the network live main event. Unfortunately, we are not standing face to face. We are still doing everything live right here on the network, but we're bringing you guys events every single week and month. So I am super excited to be here today. This is all about the 2021 buying market, and I have brought a couple of experts in their respected fields on with me today. And we want to talk about just what we think is happening right now. And it's, crazy buyer's market. Houses are selling for more than they should. Mortgages rates are low, and it's just wild out there. So like I said, I wanted to bring on a couple experts so we can get their opinions. And both of these folks focus a lot on us as investors. So we're going to get a deep dive into what they think is happening right now in the market. So if you guys don't know me, my name's Dylan Tanaka. I am the founder of the group and full-time real estate investor. I call myself a hybrid investor agent. I'm also a real estate broker, but I spend 95% of my time doing investments and just a little bit working normal real estate. So with that, I want to welcome today Nicole Gatto and Kris Natschke. And as always, let's start with ladies first. Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your biz?
Sure. Thanks, Dylan. I'm Nicole. I am a real estate broker. I've been a broker for about 10 years, got my licensed real estate agent for about 20. We're also investors. My husband and I started investing probably 2008 or so. We own about 100 homes and have seen a lot of different things over the years. And that's about it.
Kris?
Well, Dylan, thanks again for having me back. For those who don't know me, my name is Christopher Natschke. I'm a loan consultant with 𝗨 Home Loans. I've been in the finance industry for quite some time. Started out as like a wealth advisor, moved into just a specialty as lending over the past few years to the private bank at Chemical Bank, and now 𝗨 Home Loans. And I moved into that avenue because I like the specialty, and then I myself am an investor, more so a flipper than an investor. The properties that I hold right now are commercial; they're not residential. So kind of a little different investing side on that, but I do still flip residential homes.
Cool. And for those of you who are watching or listening live, if you guys have questions for Kris, Nicole, or myself, just put them in the comments. If we don't get to them tonight, that's cool. Kris and Nicole are both big members, active members of our Facebook group, so they'll get answered at some time, but just scroll below and put your questions in. But one thing I want to explain to everyone who is who's listening right now and watching is Nicole and Kris are both real estate investors. Now, they don't do 95% of their time real estate investing like I do, but they are both 100% in the market, and they understand what we do. They both invest themselves. So those are the type of experts that I like to bring to you guys, because we want to know what's going on in the market, but we want to know from our standpoint, right? As an investor, we've got a lot of newer investors in the group, and we have some really advanced investors. So it's important for us to get that feel, I think, from people who actually do what we do. It's okay to learn from books, but I'd much rather learn, get Nicole's feel on the market when she has 100 properties. I mean, you don't hear that every day. And the same thing with Kris. He's got a ton of different licenses as far as doing finance and mortgages go. Plus, he flips houses and he's in the commercial space a little bit. So this is a well-rounded panel. I'm the least qualified to be here. That's why I'm just doing the interviewing. So, I think we can start with Nicole, and Kris, you chime in too. Right now, how does the general market feel to you guys?
It's crazy. To be a buyer, it's rough. It's definitely a seller's market. We're seeing very little inventory, homes that are going quite a bit over asking, appraisal guarantees, free occupancy. And when I'm going out to show houses, I'm kind of staking my place in line to get in. I mean, it's back-to-back showings. So it really is a great seller's market. To be a buyer, it's tough. You have to be super competitive. And I'm sure, Kris, you're seeing the same thing on your side.
Yeah, I'm now seeing things in contracts that I've never seen before. It's crazy just to get a property They're going with those appraisal guarantees. They're going way over value. They're adding things in the contract. They're waiving inspections. So it's a different time to be an investor, but it's still a great time to be an investor. It's always going to be a great time to be an investor. Just right now, there's more competition, and that's it.
So interest rates are super low, and I guess from an investor standpoint, the way that we all look at this, what do you think, Nicole? How are the rates helping this market stay so much on fire?
Right. So the model that we used to do beforehand is we would always go based on, do a cash, you had a cash on the values were so low. And we're in such a different market at this point. We've really taken advantage of the low rates and have based our, we just closed on 3 homes in the past couple weeks. We've based that on, a leverage return. And so, and not really the appreciation, but just those numbers. You have to just, we know that we're paying more for these houses than we really should be for what we're used to, I guess. Not what we should be, what we're used to, but the numbers work. So it really has helped to still continue to grow, just using a different model.
Yeah, and I think as newer investors, especially who are brand new, they don't understand that I'll pay $1 million for a house that's worth $50,000 as long as I can make a payment for $1 a month for the rest of my life, right? So you guys are leveraging, you guys, you're talking about your personal investments, your husband and yourself. You guys are paying more than you want to, but the rate and you're borrowing bank money, it's so low that you don't have to go and find private money. You don't have to pull from your personal stash. You're not using hard money. That's crazy on rentals. You can, but you got to be really fast, really quick, and very smart, I think, to do that, to not get in trouble. So you're able to buy stuff that at an elevated price because your financing is so low. So that's just a good tip for you guys to think about out there. Those of you who have good credit and and income and you're legitimate and you show you show all that stuff on your taxes that you can use bank money. And Kris will talk a little bit about that later for sure. But Kris, where do you think interest rates are going right now?
So last month, it was challenging. There was a lot of ups and downs. It was just a deteriorating market. And so we forced a lot of locks in place just to be safe because we wanted that safety net. But over the next 90 days, I don't foresee anything really fluctuating. They've kind of leveled off over the last couple weeks. But holistically, I mean, rates are still fine. On purchases, I would say I'm probably within 20 basis points of where we were over the fall, which rates in the fall were fantastic. So where we were writing purchases around 3.625, we're like 3.875 now. So you're still sub 4%, which on an investment property is just fantastic. I can't stress that enough. People are used to having 5-6% on these loans years ago where you're sub 4%, you can't ask more than that. And then, the prices of the homes are all relative, right? So where we were buying these properties, like these 3-bedroom, 1-bath at $120,000 are now going for $140,000, $150,000. Your rent's going to go up along with that. And so it is relative to what you're buying. You can build your own cost analysis for it, but when you're paying more for these homes, you are able to get that return off of the rent as long as it's within certain guidelines. You're not out, asking $2,000 a month now where it would normally be $1,100. But you can bump it up to $1,250 or $1,300 and make up that difference in your mortgage payment, if you will, for that interest rate.
So what advice would both of you give to rehabbers? So for those of you who are new, rehabbers are people who buy, fix, and resell. What do you guys think right now if you were going to, this is basically the beginning of Q2, super boring talk here, but it's like spring buying season basically, right? For us here in Metro Detroit or in any part of Michigan. So what advice would you give somebody if they're telling you right now that they're actively looking for rehabs to buy, fix, and sell?
It's tough because I still go through my old portfolio of homes that I've sold and look at what they're worth now or what they're listed for now. And we shouldn't do that, right? Because, if I just held on to that for another 4 or 5 years, whatever that might be. But, I can't say now is the perfect time to sell because we don't know where the market's going to go. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I thought it was a perfect time to sell some of my properties. I bought them cheap. I sold them for like 120, and now they probably sell for like 150 each. So you never know when the perfect time is. I thought the market couldn't get any better than what it was for those properties. So if you're rehabbing, you got to be competitive. You got to get in there quick. You got to find these almost off-market deals, because regardless of how dilapidated they are, Nicole knows, like, you'll have a property that won't even pass an inspection that's still selling for over the listing price for cash offers. So it's challenging, but if you're going to flip, now is a great time to sell because they are going over ask. But is it going to be the most opportune time within the last stretch of a decade? I don't know. It's tough to say.
So your best advice to flippers right now, buy, fix, and sell flippers, is probably to buy off market. Nicole, what would you say your best advice is for people who want to fix and flip right now?
I have them going both ways. I do have off market and I do have MLS sales. I think the biggest thing is you do have to act quickly, for sure. So you need to know your costs. You need to know what it's going to cost and build in some extra, because you just never know what you're going to run into. So, and you need to be able to pull that trigger quickly if you do see something that you like, because it's cash, it's quick. You just have to be super competitive, but you need to really know your costs ahead of time. Do some research on what it's going to actually cost to rehab a property and not get, I see people do it all the time. They don't want to listen or learn about it, and it's expensive. What do we call it? It's school. You lose some money. And
you're going to a seminar.
Yeah. So, we try to avoid those situations, and you just really need to know what your rehab costs are going to be, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the cost of lumber, concrete, all of this stuff is just so outrageous right now. I've paused work on my primary home and stuff I want done just because I know what things cost, and I'm not willing to pay these COVID prices. But unfortunately, when you're flipping homes and it is a 30, 60, 90-day timeline, you're stuck paying those. So yeah, that's a great point. Building in an extra CapEx into that to make sure that you have enough funds and you're going to make money when the deal's done.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was hoping Nicole was going to say speed, because in rehabbing, I don't care what market you're in, speed is number one. Speed to buy and speed to get it done and get it on the market. But no, that's super awesome. So we don't really swear on the show because we have a podcast also, and I don't want it to have parental advisory, but I'm going to use a dirty word here. So to use a 5-letter word, COVID, where do you guys see how do you see the COVID effect messing up or helping our market over the next 3 to 6 months?
So in my world, on the lending side, we've really seen a lot of these COVID overlays or these government regulations go away. It was tough the end of last year. And this is more along the lines of people buying investment homes versus primary and secondary. But a lot of these overlays we're seeing, if not all of them gone, a very high percentage of them gone. So the next 3 to 6 or even 9 months, we've had a lot of those restrictions lifted. So we put the pedal to the metal and we were moving forward. We worked out what we needed to with the GSEs to make sure that we're within the new guidelines they have regarding investment properties and secondary homes and what lenders are capable of doing. So we're pedal to the metal and just moving forward with it.
On my end, it's hard to say. COVID has slowed down our inventory, I feel. There's a lot of people that are just, they're working from home. They have kids going to school. They have a lot of different things, which is probably, inhibiting them a little bit and putting their house on the market, let's say, because it's very restricted. We have others who may be super scared. We see these showing instructions that, you have to basically enter in a hazmat suit to go into their house. So there's that aspect. The other aspect is, as far as unemployment and people not being secure with their future jobs. So some people, just kind of holding right now, not sure what they're going to do.
Yeah, and everybody, again, if you're watching and listening, we've got Nicole's info below, Kris's info below. You guys are going to be able to get a hold of them. And, I want to go back to some of Kris's mumbo jumbo with this finance stuff. I don't even know what he's talking about with half of it, but here's the thing. He does.
I don't either.
So, that's why I've got them on today, because you don't have to be a loan expert. You need to know someone who is a loan expert. And Kris and I have spent time together, and he knows hard money lenders. He knows private money lenders. If he can't get a deal done, he'll try to help you get a deal done, because eventually that comes back around to him. And the same thing with Nicole. I'm going to ask her a question that just popped up on the screen. She's going to give you probably better advice than I will, because she eats, sleeps, and breathes and lives in this market, because she's helping guys like me find houses. She's also helping guys like me possibly sell houses even before they're listed. But then she's working with regular buyers and sellers too. So she's got a well-rounded idea of what's going on. So Nicole, a question just popped up, and they want to know, what your advice is as, again, kind of like me, but a little bit more on the retail side. You're a hybrid investor agent. You walk the line. So if you're working with a new client, what's the best way that you would guide them to find new deals on the investment side?
So on the investment side, I do a few things. I always still look at the MLS, but I'm always looking for off-market deals, whether it be through Facebook. I've picked up a couple of off-market deals in those ways. I also watch for those for my clients, but just as a regular investor, you may be talking to somebody who says, they know of a house for sale, and if that's what you're looking for, you want to definitely pursue those opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I think that's always the holy grail for those of us who've been in business a long time. If I find a great deal, Nicole, and I brought it to you and said, hey, I found this deal, we can make $1 million. Do you want to work on it? You're like, I'll listen. I might be able to find the money. I might have the money, and then vice versa. I always tell newer people, you got to find, it's okay to have the money. Like, we'd all rather just have $10 million in our checking account than have to do what we're doing day to day, probably. But if they find deals, something I always try to get into their heads, the money's there if you find a deal. If you find a legitimate deal, whether it's any of the three of us or the thousands of other people in this group, there's somebody there to back it, buy it, partner on it, flip it with you, whatever. So I think it's important for newer investors to understand that, and then to be connected to people like Kris and Nicole who can help you at multiple different stages along the way. So
yeah, and it's, we're not strangers. So the three of us, Nicole and I, have had the pleasure of doing business together. We share mutual clients, and Dylan and I have known each other for a very long time. We've even golfed together. So we spend time with each other outside of the network, inside of the network. And so you're not going to be talking to people who are trying to steal your deals or anything like that. We're here to really just help you. And that's a question I get a lot, is with these investors of, why don't want to give, they want a pre-approval, they want to go get this property. I ask all the details, like, I don't want to give you the address. Well, then I don't want to give you a loan. Like, if you're not going to trust me and you're not going to want me to do the deal, then I'm just not going to do the deal, because my time's valuable, your time's valuable. No one's going to just, we're not here to soak up your deals and steal those. That's not the idea, and it's not Dylan's mission. So if anybody had those reserves against a realtor or a lender, we just don't care. There's tons of deals out there. We're here to help you, not help ourselves.
Yeah, that's like why we pride ourselves with the network. Our motto is share the love, because there's just so much negativity in the world. Forget about COVID, all that other stuff. Just in general, I do so much free consulting and coaching just on my Facebook Messenger, people asking me to look at things, and I'm not going to spend 2 hours on it. I don't have the time, but it's just like Nicole. I mean, her and I have known each other, at least through business, again, easily since 2008. She knew all my old partners, people I'd done business with. And if Nicole Gatto's name was bad, I would have known that since 2008, and vice versa. So it would be like, hey, watch out for this guy, watch out for this girl. Because our industry, the real estate investing world, is super tiny, super tiny. So when something happens, eventually I'll hear it, they'll hear it, you'll hear it. So we just want everybody to know that, like, listen, we're all here to be smart. Don't be silly and just throw addresses out there that you don't have under contract. But there are people that you can trust, and I want a 20, 30, 40-year relationship with you. I mean, Nicole said she's been licensed for 20 years. So I don't know if she got licensed when she was like 2 or 3 years old, because that seems way too long for her.
You're too good.
But honestly, like, I've seen her name across my email again since those times, since 08, 07. I started buying in 03 and probably in 5 or 6. I mean, that's a long time ago. So you can build this, and there's no other way to do it than being involved in groups like this, events like this, getting to meetups, getting to RIAs once the doors open back up everywhere. Because again, it's a teeny tiny world. So Nicole could wholesale or retail sell, however you want to say it, every single property I get, pretty much. I guarantee it, and vice versa. So you never know when that's going to come in handy, because even though we're definitely not like all business partners, but I look at all of these people as my partners because we can partner on deals, or she can help me find something, or Kris can get a deal financed for one of my buyers that I never thought was going to happen. So, yeah, so I guess that's our little commercial, like where you're hugging like a heart or something. But so back to reality. What you guys talked about people, or I think before we got on and went live, we talked about people buying too high. The actual people out there in the real world. What are the effects going to be, whether it's investors who don't know what they're doing yet, or homeowners when they're paying these elevated prices?
Well, for investors, that's why I tell people just to really focus on your returns. If you're buying and holding, stress test your numbers. So for example, we just closed on a house on Friday, 3-bedroom, 1-bath garage. We closed on it on Friday, where we were going to put it up for rent for $1,200. We realized, okay, well, we can get $1,400 for this house as a rental. When we ran our numbers for our returns, we stress tested that, and we always put in a lower number, just in case those numbers do not hold. We want to make sure that we're still in a positive position. My experience, we don't have the infrastructure to continue to do like rehabs. So my knowledge is more is with the buy and hold. I do know people, and I help investors with the rehabs. So that's where I said you need to know your numbers, and you need to have that set up to turn those quick. We don't know how the market's going to change within a short amount of time. For people that are buying for their primary residences and things like that, if they're selling another home and purchasing another home, they're selling high, buying high, so which is a little helpful. But for my people that are not, just really have the talk of, okay, you may stay here, you may have the plan to stay here, but you may not. Some things happen, unfortunately, in life, and you may have that. You just need to know that it's not a guaranteed investment, right?
What do you say, Kris?
Nicole's 100% right, and you just don't know what's too much, what's too little, and you got to know your numbers. But when we look at it on a lending aspect, you got to have the cash, because if you're doing these appraisal guarantees and you're guaranteeing a $15,000-$20,000 over ask, you better have the cash to back it up. The age-old story of cash is king, right? The more cash you have, the more.
What happens if they don't have the cash? What's the repercussion, Kris?
Well, we wouldn't be able to secure the loan, and so they'd fail the contract, risk of losing their escrow for backing out. Probably we would get them a letter saying that they lost financing, or we weren't able to finance them, so they could get it back. But depending on the contract and how they write them, because a lot of these, there's no realtors involved, you're just using the title company. And if you're newer to this and you haven't protected yourself for things like that, then you could lose your escrow money or investments you've already put into it. I've had properties where people had to repair drywall and things like that before they bought it to secure lending. And if that seller or something happens and it backs out, you lost your money. So you got to be careful. But, the old saying, cash is king. You need to be careful, especially if you're a newer investor. If you're dumping all of your capital into this one property in order to secure this one property, and you paid $15,000, $20,000 over, that's $15,000, $20,000 less you have to go and get the next property and the property after. So you just need to be cautious. You need to do what Nicole does, do the stress test, know your numbers, know where you're going to end up, always guess lower, what is it? Underestimate, over deliver, whatever that is, right? So just make sure you're really concise on what you need out of that property. And if you're going to flip it, you got to take into consideration that prices on lumber continues to go up. Is it even available? Are you going to be stuck with this? Are the contractors available now with prime season coming out here to come and do this work if you're not doing it yourself? So you just have to take a lot of those costs into consideration, and newer investors might not be looking at those things.
Yeah, moving on to rehab costs, we talked a little bit about that. I mean, what do you guys think right now, Nicole? I'm been in the business a little while like you, so I hate rehab. I love rehabbing when it's all I do for years. But then once you're out of it, you're like, thank God I'm not rehabbing anymore, right? But these rehab costs, Kris is talking about, lumber going up and concrete and stuff. What do you guys see happening to your investor clients with these rehab costs?
Well, for us, I mean, we've experienced it even on our own homes. I mean, investor clients we've seen, things get held up for a back ordered cabinet, or, not even just the cost, it's the back orders, which is also a cost because it does take your time. I mean, the more time that house sits, you still have those carrying costs. Even from our aspect, I mean, we didn't have to, we put a deck on one of our homes. Something that should have cost, $3,000-$4,000 ended up costing $8,000, and a trip to four different Lowe's to get the materials for it. Whereas before you just called up and said, here's what we need, you go in and get it. And our costs are somewhat controlled because we do have people on staff that work. But even then, I mean, it was a double cost that we didn't really anticipate, really. But I don't see the material costs going down anytime soon, or the shortages. It's something that we continue to deal with.
All right, you adapt and you move on, right? So those who aren't willing to do the extra work right now and shop, different Home Depots, or going to different Home Depots or different Menards, whatever that is, a lot of these people are doing the work themselves to cut costs. But areas where you need to hire contractors, where you're not qualified to do the work, yeah, there's a premium to it right now. I kind of mentioned it earlier, and to Nicole's point, I paused a couple projects I have here at my primary home, specifically concrete, because I know what concrete costs, and I'm not willing to pay, $20,000 for a 35 by 20 slab when I know realistically it's only going to cost me $10,000 in a normal environment. So you either have to bake those costs in or find alternative methods. And when you find those alternative methods, if you're sacrificing quality because of price, that home that you need to resell for $20,000 over ask, you're not going to get $20,000 over ask because you're not putting the quality into the home that you would normally do. So you just need to be careful, really take that all into consideration. Nicole, you made a great point. Even think of that with like back ordering, stupid things like appliances. I had to order an appliance package, and last winter you were 4 months out for appliances. And so you either need to list these homes, what a lot of them were listing without appliance packages, or you got to go to Facebook Marketplace, try to find some used ones to get in there. You need to be creative. You just need to find different methods and different ways to get the things that you need. But keep in mind that you're on a budget, and stick to that budget, or you're not going to get your money back.
And plan ahead. I mean, that is definitely, you really have to have your checklist in order. We do have a flip going on right now, and actually I didn't order the appliances as quick as I should. So in our case, we have the time. We're waiting on a well person to come out and complete something with a well, but one of the appliances isn't coming in until middle of May. So and it's what, March 24th. I ordered it yesterday. So it, in our case, it's okay because we have that time built in there. But normal flip, if you're cranking them out and you have that, it is for sure.
Nicole, you don't know this, but Kris and I have a very strong connection to appliances, so we can always try to help you out. And Kris, I talked to Phil yesterday actually, because he's doing some electrical work at his house. But if you ever need anything, you can always ask us, Nicole, and we'll try. But
okay.
No, I mean, the thing with the materials, Kris brought it up. So I'm doing a new construction project. We're doing a whole subdivision, and our lumber prices went from 21 to like 76. They've tripled in 2 years. So I can't bake that into the cost, not that whole amount, into the cost of the home when I sell it. So, you've got to be prepared for that stuff. And I mean, that's a little bit higher level, but it's just true. And, like Nicole just said, she's like, we're not rehabbing, but she's still rehabbing a house right now, because we're always rehabbing, right? There's always something. We're like, I'll do this little rehab. And then you're like, I got to wait forever to get the stupid appliances now. It's always something that comes up. So can you guys both give a question just popped up? Can you guys give advice to new investors? Just like what's your best really quick advice right now for the next 3 to 6 months, this next buying season through summer, what would you tell them?
Kris, are you going first, or would you like me to go
Sure.
first?
I was going to kind of say something you said earlier, and be prepared or work quick. I mean, these deals go so fast. You know, Nicole, you'll list a home and there's 30 offers within a day. So if you guys are looking for these properties, you got to become creative and just work fast. Get to these homes quick, get the offers in, know your budgets, and just work quick.
Agreed. So same thing with that. The other thing is with investing, you know, people, you get a high off of it. I hate to say it. You do one and you're always looking for the next one. You need to be smart about it. You need to not chase something because there's always another deal. So, I mean, you don't, the numbers may work on this, and stick with that. Don't go over it because people say, oh, this is the deal. This is the deal. This is the deal. There's going to be other deals. So again, having a trusted network of people that you can trust and that are working for you, because I know there's a lot of bad people that are not working for you all the time. And so you want to have a good trusted network, and you just need to know when also to say, okay, this is enough, and just wait for the next deal.
I have a perfect example of that, Nicole. So, and this ties in with people offering over ask price. One of my clients has been looking for a home now for 3 or 4 months. It's his primary home. He's a first-time home buyer. And so he has that rush, that love, that feel. He wants to get his first property, very specific to what he's looking for. And so it's hard to find these homes. Found a couple, and the one home was listed as it was 1,300 square feet. In all reality, it was actually 800 square feet. They were including some basement square footage. So shame on the listing agent for that one. So he still goes out there and he's all excited about it. He's geeked. The property's great. It's enough acres. It has the pole barns. And then there was another home that he was looking at. So something that I did was just do a side-by-side comparison for him to look at the features of each property, which his realtor was helping for, but not all of them do that. That's something Nicole does, but this realtor didn't. And so I had to walk him through and basically told him the one house was selling for $250. It was 800 square feet. The other home was selling for $270, which was 1,700 square feet. Well, the other home was really 800 square feet. So if you're looking at this as a primary or an investment, you need to break down the figures. And are you willing to spend $360 per square foot in a neighborhood where really you're going to be paying $150 to $160 per square foot? But not everybody breaks it down to that. They just look at, here's the dollar amount, here's the improvements I can do, here's what I think the after value could be. But you know what? You would never in a million years get your money back on that property because the listing was incorrect. You're never going to sell that property for $366 a square foot, even if you put gold flooring throughout the entire thing. It's just never going to get that money back. So even when you're finding deals, you've got to be with a great realtor or a lender who's going to look at those things for you and make sure that you're protecting yourself, along with us doing the work on the side.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I said email pop up there and lost my train of thought.
No, and it's deemed reliable but not guaranteed, everybody. So trust but verify. I mean, back in the foreclosure days, you can ask Nicole. Everything was 1,000 square feet, even if it was 700. So I look at old listings. Yeah. I'm like, it says 796 in public record, which can be wrong, but this guy's got it at 1,000 square feet even. And there are once in a while builders who will build exactly 1,000 square feet. But when people give you round numbers, you know that they're estimating a lot of times. So you got to use your education. Use the group like this. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. A big thing with us is you cannot ask too many questions, and you can't ask any dumb questions because we all start, as I always talk, like a little tadpole, right, floating around in a pond, and then one day you become a big bullfrog. But we're here for you guys, everybody here in the network. So we're pretty lucky to have Nicole on because she probably knows more about rental houses than 99% of the people in our group. So, Nicole, give us a little, breakdown of if someone is serious and wants to become a landlord and they've got some funds behind them. So we'll talk about like an engineer, right? And he and his wife are 50 years old. They've got money. They've got W-2 income, and they come to you and they're like, hey, I would like to buy 6 to 12 properties per year over the next few years. I know that you have clients who've said that to you. How do you, what do you kind of teach them, and how would you set them up?
So, we first kind of, go over those goals and what they're looking for, and determine, where they want to be in terms of rate of returns and how hands-on they want to be. There's a lot of different things that go into it. We self-manage our properties, but we have investors that do obviously have property managers that we trust that go in. And we look at, do we look at going the cash on cash kind of thing, or do we do the leverage financing? So let's say somebody has $100,000, we would go over, okay, you can buy 1 or 2 homes for this price range, but then let's say that you bought something a little bit nicer, did the leverage financing, we would contact Kris and get them set up. Then they can purchase 5 homes with that $100,000, let's say. We're kind of doing with the rehab costs. We're trying to find more turnkey stuff, because it takes out that wild card of who's going to do the work, how much is it going to cost, and the money's cheap. The money's just cheap to borrow right now. So, we kind of, it's not just you open up a book and here's the steps. I mean, everybody has a unique situation, so we would just kind of go through that, make a plan that works for them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's great information, because I think there's a lot more people looking that way, as the economy changes, and like, everybody's forced to put their money in stocks, right? And in accounts when they work for regular companies. And it seems like when they get access, a lot of them are getting more excited about real estate, and you need to have someone on your team, or in your corner, like Nicole, who actually understands what your goals are, because that's the worst salesperson in the world, especially men, is they just drown you with features, advantages, and benefits. But they never ask you, this is what the first thing that somebody calls me and they're like, I need to sell my house. And I'm like, what are you looking to do? Right? What do you mean you need to sell your house? That could mean a million different things, but you got to be able to ask questions. So Nicole hit the nail on the head right there. And you guys are learning from people that you don't get to hear from every day and who are in the trenches. So pay attention, keep asking your questions, putting them down below. And Kris, Kris is a funny guy, and he doesn't act as funny as he does. See, look, he's already laughing. But why don't you tell us one of your funny stories, Kris? What you've seen happen to investors?
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know the whole story, but I saw an article about that woman on HGTV, and she bought a home in Detroit. So she paid. Okay, I'm probably gonna mess this up. Okay, I think she paid $20,000 for this house.
It was like 17,000 was her purchase price.
Yeah, and then she put 65,000 into the rehab. But even she, like, veterans make mistakes, right? Or we just moved too quick to the deal. The title wasn't held correctly. It was actually bank owned, and so the bank took it back and then sold it for 40,000. So she was out like $70,000 because she just didn't do the right due diligence to make sure that the contracts that she was doing were with people who actually own the property. So that was kind of a recent funny one to me that anybody can kind of go look up and read the details. And it's just, you got to be careful. You gotta watch what's happening. But let me think. So
even big shot TV stars make mistakes.
We do, man, and it's the nature of the beast, But I've kind of done a couple funny things in this house. And so we bought this house as our primary, but we still, we always look for homes that we can improve and flip. And so last year we stained all of the brick. We didn't paint it, but it had that yellowish, orangey kind of brick. My fiance absolutely hated it. I wasn't even sure if we were gonna get the house, but it had everything, checked all my boxes, right? So we go through and we stain all the brick. We get it all done. And I have this little general contractor who always comes in and does certain work for me that I just don't want to do, like drywall and everything like that. His name's Robin Wilson. So I don't know if you guys are looking for somebody to kind of help with stuff, but I think he's part of this group now. I'm not sure.
We'll tag him below for sure, and we'll get his info on the podcast.
He's just a great guy, does phenomenal work, does really much anything. So this was last summer. We did all the brick and everything, and I had him come back out over the winter to do some drywall work. We ripped out like a boiler system, installed air conditioning and heat, and so we needed to do all the drywall patch, and I hate drywall. I don't want to do it. So he knows my home. He knows the address. This guy drove up and down our street 5 times, called me 3 times, like, where's your house? Did you move? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Because we stayed in the brick and it was a different color, he didn't write my address down. He just knew like the look of the home. And so he kept driving up and down the street trying to find it. So eventually to tell him, like, I walked down the street, down my driveway, and I'm there on my phone, like, Robin, are you on the right street? Where are you? And he's like, well, some guy's standing out in front of this other house, but that's not yours. Where's your house at? Like, it was just the funniest thing. So I guess moral of the story is subtle changes make big improvements, right? So when you're looking at adding values and you need to be creative, maybe you can't do a lot of interior work right now because of prices of things. Maybe there's things that you can do on the outside to make it show better or look better, right? So you always just got to kind of evolve with it.
Yes, small hinges swing big doors, they say. So Nicole,
I don't know where you were going with that one.
Oh, Nicole, I want to turn it around on you now. Tell us one of your funny stories. I don't care if it happened to you. You can leave the innocent names out, but I want to hear one of your funny stories.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I'm trying to think of something recently that may have happened. I guess I had I don't know if it's funny, but something to keep in mind is I had a for sale by owner, and they bought this house, and then we went to go ahead and sell their house. I sold their house. They bought the one for sale by owner, and what happened was there was a ton of fees, different things that she paid on when she bought her house for sale by owner. Well, we sold her house. And she says, well, why do I have to pay this, and this? Well, when she bought her house, she had everything. The seller basically put it all on her as the buyer. So we get to closing and she's not happy of that. But the funny story, I guess, is we had a car run into one of our houses. That investment, so we get a phone call.
Was it Gilbert's Lodge on Harper St. Clair Shores? Because they seem to get hit a lot by cars.
Warren. So we got a phone call, probably, it was a couple months ago. The tenant called and she said, somebody ran into our house. And my husband said, well, call the police. He was thinking that somebody ran into the house. No, the car came across the street, ran right into the house. And so we had a house that got pushed off the foundation. So you just never know what to expect. So.
That's funny. Yikes. Yeah, that's crazy. And just to double back on Chris's story, and he's talking about whatever the chick's name is from HGTV. So even if she bought that property through a title company, they will leave. It was from the land bank. Here's the problem. So there's something called reversion. This is super boring. This is real estate nerd talk. There's reversionary interest a lot of times when you buy a property from the land bank, from the Detroit land bank. And if you don't take care of the checklist that they give you, the city of Detroit can take that house back in 30 days. They don't have to foreclose because it's literally written onto the deed, okay? So even though you close at a title company and they give you a title report, they're not going to break that down for you because, I mean, just to be honest, most of them either don't understand it or don't care. So make sure you're connected to a good title company because you can close on deals, right? And they have exceptions, and all of us know what that means, but normal people don't. Normal investors don't know what that means. So, like I said, some genius who's on TV, now, she's just making a name for herself and suing the city, but it's her fault. Dugan's going to probably give it to her, and, he'll be on TV smiling with her, too. So good for them. But, like Nicole said, learn what you're doing and, treat this as a business, not a hobby. As much fun as it is, we can have fun like this, but you got to treat it as a business. So winding down, I know we're coming close to the end here. I got a couple more questions for you guys. So this is the big one that everybody wants to know. And, again, this is just our opinions, you guys. This is nothing more than a very hilarious comedy talk show. So Nicole's a real estate broker. I'm a broker. Chris has a bunch of different licenses, but make sure you guys talk to licensed professionals before you make any decisions, because we're not giving you guys investment advice. We're just kind of kicking the ball around and having a conversation. But what I'd really want to know from both of you is, when do you think the so-called real estate crash is coming?
As far, I don't anticipate, I mean, Dylan, you and I and Chris, you saw, we all lived through the crash that happened before. I personally don't believe it will be as hardly hit as we were before. I mean, from an investing standpoint, I wouldn't mind it, because we could definitely add to our portfolio, right? But at the same time, I feel as if, though, just having watched mortgages and different things, that there's been some precautions put into place that were not there before. Definitely. You know, we will have a slight pullback, which is just typical. I mean, real estate is a cyclical thing, and you have that, you know, you have the highs and lows. I don't anticipate the crash as widespread. I mean, that's my opinion, of course, but I would say probably end of 2022, beginning of 2023. I definitely anticipate this market where we're at right now holding, just because we have such a shortage of inventory. There's just, and people are built up. I mean, I have people just, you know, trying to get into homes, putting 10 offers into houses that they're not getting. So all of those people, and I'm just one agent. I mean, I sell quite a few homes, but I know many people that have been on that circle trying to get into a house that they just haven't. So it's going to hold. And obviously, Chris, you know, depending on the rates, which, you know, we don't know where those are going, but they're still at a very competitive place to be able to support that.
And what do you think, really quick, Chris, before you answer Nicole, what are you watching for, you know, secretly when you and your husband are drinking coffee in the morning going, we're ready to buy 100 more houses? What do you think that first indicator is? Just like we knew, like when the banks crashed, right? That's when the old guys, the 80-year-olds I was sitting with in a locker room, no joke, at a gym, and these guys are like, it's over. That was the day all the bank stocks crashed.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. You know, we watch the number of people that are in forbearance right now. So right now, I mean, one of the indicators we've been watching is that 10% of Americans are not paying their mortgage, right? So that is higher, that number's higher than when we had our crash beforehand. But there's also, we personally don't know a lot of people that aren't working due to COVID. Right. So, you know, I think a lot of people that are not working may be, you know, gig workers, restaurants, you know, things like that, which our market here is not affected as much by that. And we kind of watch our rentals to see, too. I mean, we had the highest collection rate that we did ever. I mean, we only had a couple evictions last year. That was it. And everybody is working. So what we'll be watching for, I guess, is that forbearance and how that is going to play out, and see where that goes. I mean, that's probably our biggest thing right now.
Chris, for those who don't know what a forbearance is, can you give us your boring definition as a mortgage guy?
Who, me? Sorry. Yeah. So forbearance, basically, we just suspend your payments for a specific or an allotted period of time, where you don't have to make that payment, but you do still owe us that interest back. It's up to the individual lenders whether they want that principal payments due at the end of it, but it's just as if it was a student loan and you're on an income-based repayment, or, you know, really the only time we do that was because of the COVID relief, where people got 30, 60, or 90 days of forbearance where you didn't pay your mortgage. But once those 90 days were up, guess what? You still owed us that money, because at the end of the day, banks are in the business of making money, right?
So move on. Let's back up, though, to the crash question. What are your thoughts on if and when this market's going to crash?
So, you know, I was a wealth advisor for quite some time, so I could talk about this for hours, but I'm not going to.
We've only got 90 seconds. I'm joking, Chris.
I'm going to give my elevator speech on it because, like, you know, here we go. But realistically, Michigan market is totally different than global market, right? We're talking about a global crash versus more of an isolated area, which we're focused on, not so much globally. Things to really pay attention to and to focus on if we're entering a crash, which the crash is different. Like people think the crash is, oh, the housing is going to drop and values are going to plummet. Well, that wasn't what the crash was. Yeah, values went down, but it was due to lenders. We inflated all of these homes. We gave people money that couldn't afford that, and so everything went into foreclosure. And that's not really happening anymore. There's tons of guidelines in place. It's very challenging for lenders to actually get loans, even for these A-tier people, just because of the regulations set in place. So that aspect of the crash isn't the same as what people think of when they think of 2008, 2009. So things that you want to pay attention to, in my opinion, right now, two big things is government spending. And the reason for that is the more money our government spends, they're going to need to make that up somehow. And so rates usually increase as government spending increases. So as we see these stimulus packages or this new grant they're talking about for first-time home buyers, where you can get up to $14,000 versus like MSHDA at $7,500 for first-time home buyers, that money just doesn't exist. It's got to come from somewhere, and usually it's coming from the taxpayers. So you'll see interest rates go up a little bit higher if the government continues to spend more and more and more and more. And I'm not a political person by any means, but if the House is Democrat, we're going to see a lot more government spending, which could evolve into rates increasing. So we've talked about rates increasing over the last couple months. It's kind of been steady because we don't know yet really where the government's going to be putting those monies in. The second thing Nicole kind of already touched on was employment or unemployment. Where are we at with our unemployment rates? Are people buying homes? Are the rates there? Is the unemployment being inflated? Can people afford these homes? But really, I'm focusing on that government spending to kind of see, in my realm, in my world, where our rate's going to actually go to.
Perfect. Yeah, we don't do much politics or religion on our show because it doesn't land well with real estate investors. But no, I appreciate what you guys think, and I'm with you. I say the same thing. I'm an old dog. I was around during the old foreclosure days, and it was much easier to get loans back then. The government wasn't ready, or they should have been more ready to modify loans and short sales and all that other stuff. And they literally just let the blood fly. And people like myself and Nicole's husband and Nicole, we were able to go in and just pick up properties just for pennies on the dollar. And that wasn't good for America, right? We don't really want that to happen. We just want to find good deals. But, numbers don't lie, so things will be changing. But I love what both you guys said. I don't think a super crash is imminent, but you have to be prepared for things to change. So Nicole's $1,400 rental property, she needs to be able to lease that out at 10 or 11 and be okay there.
Yeah.
And when you're buying houses and you think you're going to buy, fix, and flip, and you're not remembering that your costs are up 30, 40, 50, 200% on some items, and then you're hoping you're going to get 20 or 30 grand over ask or over appraisal, you're out of your mind. You might as well go to Vegas. So, I don't want to be negative or contrarian, but guys, come on, you got to be realistic at a certain point. And you make your money in real estate when you buy. We all know that, unless you have 30 years to wait. And God bless you if you do, but you want to also buy at the right price and buy at the deepest discount possible. And you can do that. You just have to be focused and do the right things. So before we go, something I always ask you guys who are on the show is, this isn't pertaining to like the next quarter or anything like that. This is just more for anyone who's listening, whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years from now. If you can give one golden nugget to an investor, what would it be?
Find a good mentor, find a good network, and just make sure you educate yourself. Unfortunately, there's always going to be those lessons that are just learned, along the way. It might cost you a little bit more time or money. But it's so important is to find those trusted people. Not every person who may tell you something, that may not work for you. Everybody has a little bit of a different approach when it comes to investing. So it's so important to make sure that you just have a good network, a good mentor, and find your niche, find what works for you. Just and roll with it, and be flexible. You do have to be flexible and expect change, like you had said. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead, Kris.
Last time I said like be ethical and we're all in this together and yada yada yada. Just have some fun, man. I mean, this is a time that we've never seen before, where values are crazy, comparable to what the marketplace is, right? Money's cheap. It's a great time to be in investing, but don't get stressed out if the deals aren't happening or you can't find properties. There's tons of them out there. Get creative, find new ways. If you're doing the same thing over and over and over, what do they say? The definition of insanity is you do the same thing over and over and over, expecting different results. Well, guess what? You're going to get the same results every time. So try something different, try something new. Reach out to Dylan or myself or Nicole, ask questions, see what we're doing. Because without that, you're going to be in the same thing you were doing 2 years ago. You're going to miss out on all these deals. So just have fun and be creative.
Yeah, no, I love that. And Nicole, I really appreciate you being on, but I could give Nicole the mic and she could have talked about that for an hour, because she bleeds like the same blood that I bleed with this stuff. So it's awesome to hear that. And same thing with Kris. I mean, that's like, you got to have fun. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to pay your bills and all that stuff, which we're all going to do, right? Or try as hard as we can. But you got to have fun with it, and that's a big part of what this network's all about, the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network. We're here to answer questions. I mean, I was helping a guy yesterday, and he's trying to wholesale a house, and he's sending me screenshots, and it's on Messenger, and I'm like, I don't have time for this. And then he's like, the broker is really weird about me wholesaling this. I'm like, is this thing listed? I'm like, you should have started with that. So it's like, take your time, and it's not just in our group. Go everywhere. Go to Bigger Pockets. Go to sites like Flip Nerd. Like I said, so much free education out there, but pay attention to people who are in your market, experts like the two who are on today on either side of me, if I'm doing that right, because they can tell you. Nicole and or Kris can answer a question in literally 5 seconds that you've been searching for the answer for, and you're getting info from people from around the country who have Facebook groups or are gurus, and there's nothing wrong with those guys, but please. I just told another story about someone who called me, and they went through 5 title companies, and then they finally posted something on our group saying that the last title company told them if they are allowing their clients to assign contracts, the FBI would take them down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a title company telling new investors this stuff. So seek the truth, and you'll get that here. And don't just take my opinion, don't take their opinions, take the collective. And then sometimes you got to spend a little bit of money and talk to an attorney or a CPA or just a real broker. And, Nicole's not going to give you a 2-hour masterclass on rentals for free, because she's busy building her portfolio and working with clients. And same thing with Kris. He can't spend 3 hours with you to teach you how a mortgage works. But if you're bringing them business, or if you're referring them in, then it makes it a lot easier. So you got to give a little more than you take in the beginning too, if I can give my advice. But I guess with that, if you guys want to give your contact info, only for the people who are just listening, but all of their information is below. So if you guys are watching this anywhere, you can find both Kris and Nicole. But if someone's just listening, what's the best way for them to get a hold of each of you?
So I am on Facebook under a Smart Move Realty. You can search for Nicole Gatto. It'll pop up. My cell phone number is my mobile tether, 586-202-5487, or you can email me. It's NicoleGatto@gmail.com. That's always an easy one. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Just give some advice. Like you said, I don't have 3 hours to, dig into a deal, but I'm always happy to, point you in the right direction without, it was pointed out earlier about stealing deals. That's not how we do. We're very, willing to help people. So if you have a question or just have a concern, reach out. I'm happy to go over it and kind of point you in the right direction.
And she means that. I've done a lot of loans for Nicole for her clients, not just for her, but for her clients, where she could have easily scooped up those properties and bought them herself. So we're in the business to make money, but we're in the business of making friends too. So best way for me is cell phones, 248-835-7922. It's the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook, Christopher Natschke, or my business page is Natschke Caliber Loans. And you'll see that on the network page as well.
Yeah, and I just want to thank both of you guys again. And you know, we kind of joke because we all give our time, and that's what we are. You know, we're not really just salespeople. I mean, we're business people, and so we have to give time. But this is when they give their time. So, you know, give them some hearts, give them some thumbs up right now. And Nicole's not going to give you a 3-hour free class like she said, but she just spent an hour with you here explaining stuff. So take advantage of that. You know, get on the network, ask questions, do it right now. We'll get those answers to you guys, but you know, you gotta be engaged to kind of to get to that next level, and that's what we're here for. So that's it from us. We appreciate you guys being here. Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, #the network. You guys can find us weekly right here, multiple different shows, and we appreciate everybody being here. So for me, I'm gonna say good night, and Kris and Nicole, the network totally appreciates what you guys do for us.
Thanks.
Thank you.